Order. We're here to get update from Panhandle Health budget review, and I'll just let Don take it away.
All right,
Tell us what we've got.
thank you so much. So what we'll do here today is, again, we're going over with you our FY24 budget. And but before I do that, I wanted to share with you our 2022 annual report. So I'm going to give you each a copy of this. I'm just going to briefly go through this. It's best for you on your own if you'd like to take a look here. And just kind of want to go over a few things on here. You know, I think as we look at some of the achievements we've had a number one for us. We're very happy with the fact that our ICP, our institutional control program, that's what we do when we examine dirt and the lead levels in that program has successfully been, it's now in statute under the Department of Environmental Quality. We still have all the work that we do on our end, but I don't know, I can't remember what I've told you about all of that, but essentially we lost the ability, the governor removed the ability for us to continue that to be an administrative law. And so we didn't have the ability to submit that to the legislature to continue that going. But the Department of Environmental Quality does have that ability to create an administrative rule on the state level. So we transferred that opportunity for them to do that. They don't do any of the work. We just use their good name basically to make sure that could happen. But that was really important, or all the work that we've done to mitigate lead poisoning in the area, we wouldn't have been able to continue to do that. So we certainly look at that as one of our great achievements in 2022. Also, the work that we're doing in substance use disorder, that just unfortunately continues to grow. From your county, we had some requests, which we approved both of those for some funding to help them with the work that they're doing on that same topic, and a number of other things. We've seen a lot of growth in our Women's, Infants, and Children program in this community, and we're happy with that, amongst others. So just a few highlights. But if we actually kind of turn through here just a little bit, again, just a quick update on our organizational structure. We have our Board of Health. I report to the Board of Health. And that Board of Health is made up of either county commissioners, as you know, or representatives. We're real happy when a commissioner can sit on our board like Commissioner Cassidy does. I think that's much more efficient. Often we see where commissioners will have a representative, and the representative never connects with the commissioners. And the commissioners really don't have a good understanding of what's happening at the Board of Health, even though they're funding part of that. And so to have a commissioner on the board, we feel is much more efficient. So essentially, it is true. We are my boss essentially are the county commissioners in the 5 northern counties, and then our various programs that we have. Just a quick review of financially what happened in 2022. As we can look at this funding, 44% of our fund comes from federal and state grants. I mentioned a moment ago our Women's, Infants, and Children program. You know, that's around a $700,000 grant that comes from the Department of Agriculture. We talked about the opioid settlement work we do. Those are all grant funds that we're receiving. So 44% of our budget comes from grants. 36% comes from fees. That could be clinical fees. That could be going out and doing a septic tank approval in your county and a fee that we'll charge for that. It could be a fee for doing a restaurant inspection and ensuring that their permit is in order. That's 36% of our budget. We get a little money from interest, which comes down to really what we're asking from all of our counties, and that's 19% of our budget. And you will see, we have a $13 million budget. We're not asking the counties for any more this year. So the counties come up with about $2.5 million of our budget each year. And Christine will give you a more breakdown of that. As we move through this report, a couple of pages which I think are interesting as we look at you know, and this is not inclusive of all of the services that we've provided to your county, but it gives you a good summary. Of the 5 northern counties, the citizens of the 5 northern counties utilized Panhandle Health District 28,000 times throughout 2022. Here in your county, that was about 3,000 folks touched Panhandle Health District in 2022. You can look at this and see, for example, in 2022, we issued 31 septic permits in Shoshone County. We did 67 food inspections, 7 child care inspections, 12 public water systems that we examined. I talked about the ICP program and the environmental property permit. You know, that was well over 1,000 of those that happened. We had 335 children that came in to do lead screening. One of the programs we really love to do here in Shoshone County is our Nurse Family Partnership Program and our Parents as Teachers programs. These are young moms with their first child. You think about that for a moment. You know, we could have a 17-year-old that's pregnant, is going to have a baby. The father has left the scene. They have no support whatsoever. It happens frequently. And we will supply to that young mom a registered nurse that will be with that mom until that child reaches 2 years of age. And she'll be visiting with him, again, a registered nurse, every month until that child reaches the age of 2. And that is just an incredible service that we provide. You can see how that can provide a foundation to get that family on a good foot. And there is no charge for them. So those are the types of programs in NFP and Parents as Teachers that we offer. We spoke about the Women's, Infants, and Children program. 380 in your community are taking advantage of that nutritional-based program, and so on. And you can go through this. Again, it's kind of cradle, like say grave, but to our older citizens, we have our Senior Companion program, our Fit and Fall, that all falls under the senior services. So there's a lot that happens in Shoshone County. We're proud of that work that we do here in this area. But this report will kind of give you a better idea of the services that we're providing throughout the 5 northern counties, but even specific to Shoshone County. So with that, kind of quick review of 2022 for your county, I'm going to turn the time over to Christine Crummer. And she's going to go over what you really want to hear, and that is what the budget looks like and ultimately what we're going to be asking Shoshone County for. So, Christine, please.
Does anyone have a handout? Do you need a handout? Would you like a handout?
I don't think so, not.
Okay. Let's start off with page 2, and this discusses the county funding. Just a reminder that the county funding provides the maintenance to the district and is calculated based on 70% is basis of population and 30% is on the taxable market value.
Is that based on a state law or how did they?
It is statute 39424.
Oh, I see the rest of it now. Thank you.
If we go to page 3, this is our budget. And our total budget for fiscal year 24 is $12,979,000 compared to prior year of $13,029,000. It's a decrease of $50,165. Now, if you look at our change column, it's somewhat distorted because we did close home health in fiscal year 23. And home health represented approximately $1,150,000 of the revenue portion of our budget for fiscal year 23. So those changes are reflected in our change column here. I like to start at the bottom in the revenue section because we need to determine what our expected revenues are and then build our expenses around that. So if we look at our program advances, you can see that it has increased by $839,000 over prior year. And what that represents, that increase is primarily the opioid funding, because we received the opioid funding in fiscal year 23, but we will not be using it until fiscal year 24. That's the reason why it's called a reserve. So 760,000 of that 839 is opioid settlement funds. And the remainder is some parents as teachers funding, 60,000 coming forward from fiscal year 23, as well as 15,000 in estimated donations and $4,000 in CARES funding, of which CARES was a donation given to the health district years ago for cancer prevention, and we're nearly spent out on that. So our next category is licenses and fees, and that is a decrease over prior year's budget by 12%. Licenses and fees represents environmental health activity, the septic permits, that type of thing. And the reason why we've budgeted less this year is we're seeing a slowdown due to construction, the increase in interest rates. We're not seeing the activity. As of our March financial statement, we were down in revenues approximately 16%. We do anticipate seeing an increase in activity through April through June, our fiscal year end. But because we had a more difficult winter compared to years past, there was a slowdown in addition to what we're seeing in construction because of the increase in interest rates. Health services represents our clinical division, and in the prior fiscal year, that also included home health. That's why you're seeing that $1,200,000 reduction there. We've estimated less in our clinical division because we are seeing less activity in there. We decreased that estimate by approximately 12% compared to last year in clinical services. Contracts and grants, you'll see an increase here of $539,000. And what that $539,000 represents, the majority of it, is $442,000 in a new grant that we actually received notice of 2 weeks ago. And the grant is an infrastructure grant. And what that grant is, it's a result of new federal funding as a result of the pandemic. And we had the opportunity to develop our wish list early on. And what we put in that wish list is, let me back up a bit and state that the grant is to help. It came as a result of seeing some of the weaknesses in public health during the pandemic. So the money came out to help shore up, to help build up the infrastructure in public health. And it's pretty wide open on how those funds can be used. And in our wish list, what we have put in here is funding for a HIPAA privacy and security officer, assistance with our FAB accreditation and a community health assessment coordinator, and possibly assistance with our suicide prevention program. And in salary and wages, we budgeted 2 FTEs as a result of this program. And the balance could be in consulting. We're not exactly sure how we want to look at those services with I'm stumbling here and I apologize, with the suicide prevention support individual or with the HIPAA compliance officer. We're not sure if we want to hire for those positions or potentially have them as a consultant. So they're budgeted 2 FTEs in salary and wages, and then some in consulting services. The other place where we would like to expend some of these funds would be in assistance with our IT infrastructure, would be one category. And the other areas would be helping with our website maintenance and development, and also assisting with making our electronic management system more efficient. So that pretty much describes the infrastructure grant. And again, that is about $442,000. And that is over a period of 4 years. Is that not correct, Don? 4 years. Thank you.
That's 442,000 every year?
442,000 the first year,
Okay.
and undefined for the next
Yeah,
3
it'll
years.
probably be a little higher the next 3 years because we got into it late because those funds could only come to us via ARPA funds.
Yeah.
And as you probably know, ARPA funds need to be granted by the legislature to use them, and they did for this particular purpose. So because of that, they came late. So we're not getting a full year amount, but we should with years 2 through 4, which is about another $50,000.
So it'll be about $500,000 the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. For 3 more years?
Yes, sir.
Well, okay.
So the difference, the balance that makes up that variance in our contracts and grants is approximately $71,000, which is related to additional vaping funding that we're receiving in fiscal year 24. And that goes into our tobacco cessation program. Donations and other, as well as interest, admittedly, those were really high-level estimates. I decreased the donations based on the activity that we're seeing or lack of activity that we're seeing in fiscal year 23. Interest was difficult to project because going into fiscal year 23, our interest rate was 0.89%, and as of March, it was 4.13%. And not really knowing what was happening for fiscal year 24, although they estimate it may go back up. I tried to take the middle of the road, and I was conservative on the estimate. So I came in at 90,000. So that is the revenue section of our budget. Before we move to expenditures, do you have any questions?
I have a question about the vaping funding and that, but I don't know if you want to do that here or after, because I'm more interested in the program than the money part.
Why don't we take it now?
So if I read this right, we haven't been doing any vaping education in Shoshone County, if I saw it in here, or we didn't last year.
We have been, not everything is in there, but we have done some. And what we do is we go into schools when they'll have us, and we do a vaping presentation with them. And we have had some in Shoshone County. Maybe it's in 2023 that has occurred.
Okay, I just wondered why our county wasn't taking advantage of that.
Yeah, I can tell you that if the schools will have us, we will be there. And I'm confident that we're in your county. I'm confident that we've been here. I could get you more detail on that for sure.
Well, if we're not, I wanted to go talk to some school districts. So
Okay, great. Let me get you some more information on that.
Before I-
Answer your question.
before I jump on them about why they're not doing
Okay.
that, yeah.
Very good. I'll let you know.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. Okay, let's take a look and see what's happening in our world of expenditures here. So salary and wages, we have a decrease of 278,000. But keep in mind, we closed home health, but home health only represented approximately $642,000. And actually it was 727, but a few of those individuals were retained. So we had a 4% salary increase, which represents about $246,000. And the 2 new hires that I mentioned represent about 254. And then the balance is going to represent a shift in current staffing to where individuals may have been promoted to additional higher positions. So that addresses the $839,000 variance. Excuse me, $278,000 variance. I jumped that down to revenues. So our next thing is employee benefits. And what has happened in our employee benefits is we have an increase in our insurance rates. And what has happened with insurance, it's increasing by $2,100 per FTE. And that represents approximately it is a $2,100 increase per individual, as well as an increase of $1,680 for a less than a full FTE individual. So in total, and that's really the only change because we have very little change in our fringe rates, such as workers' comp, state unemployment. So the overall change as it relates to employee benefits after accounting for home health is $25,000.
May I ask, what did you do for a cost of living increase?
4%.
You did 4.
And we do recognize that that is not keeping up with inflation. And that change alone is the $246,000 in just the salary component.
It adds up quickly.
It does.
What percent did your total insurance go up? Do you have a percentage of how much it went up for the year?
I don't have that percentage handy, but it would be $2,100 divided by 11,650. Are there any questions related to the personnel component? Any further questions? Okay, we'll move on to operating expenditures. In the operating expenditure category, there really is no significant change other than what we're planning for the infrastructure grant. As previously mentioned, a number of our operating expenses are by contracts such as our snow removal, lawn maintenance, our IT services, which we contract out through Kootenai Health. Those are all by contract, so a fixed rate. We did increase our insurance gasoline by 5%. It was recommended by risk management that we increase our budget in the insurance category by 5%. And again, in gasoline, we did the same. And pretty much with the other expenditures, we followed suit with what had been budgeted for fiscal year 23. And again, no significant changes. So the variance of 92,000 will also include some of the opioid expenditures funding. We see a lot of expenses coming through that are related to the purchase of Narcan, which is quite expensive. Total capital expenditures, what we have budgeted for capital expenditures in fiscal year 24 is we have 2 vehicles budgeted at a total of $56,000. And we have some maintenance projects and security projects that we'll be implementing in some of the outlying offices. For example, in Boundary County, we need to complete the landscaping. We just did a sizable remodel in that office this past year. We were unable to complete the landscaping, so we have about $15,000 budgeted for landscaping. Shoshone County, we are going to be implementing a security system. In the Hayden office, we have badge swipe access to all of the divisions and offices sections of the building. So it won't be to the same level as the Hayden office, but we do plan on implementing some security in the Kellogg office, as well as in the Sandpoint office. Kootenai County is general maintenance. We will be doing some parking lot sealing, and also some tree maintenance, landscaping maintenance there. The Bonner County office, that building, we need to do some That's the Sandpoint office. And we have an issue with the roof. So we need to be doing some gutter repair or gutter installation, over an entryway and some heat tape maintenance along there. When the weather is just right, we get a snow buildup, and as it melts, it's going inside the building. So that needs to be taken care of. And Benawha County, the St. Mary's office, will also be doing some parking lot maintenance, as well as some of the trim on the outside needs to be stained and painted. And that would be it as far as building repair and maintenance. The other thing that is included in the capital portion is $286,000 in principal payments that relate to the Hayden building. And in early fiscal year 25, if we stay on target with our principal payments, because there are additional payments included in here, we should be paid off on that loan. And we're attempting to be aggressive with our payments because that loan is currently at a 0% interest, which resets every 5 years. So we'd like to take advantage of that 0% interest. Trustee payments. Now, what trustee payments represent is those would be payments that really aren't an operating expense or a expense directly related to the health district. For example, we may have an agreement with an external partner. And the one that comes to mind right now is through one of our opioid grants. It is approved by the funder that we could pay a facility for drug treatment for individuals for a certain number of nights stay, night's treatment. And they will invoice us, that facility will invoice us, and then we in turn pass through the money to that facility. So that's an example of a trustee payment. So this year, we're estimating, this year being fiscal year 24, we're estimating an increase in budget by $130,600 over prior year. And the majority of that is because of the opioid settlement funding, because that funding will be made available to communities, law enforcement, those individuals that apply for that funding. Any questions on expenditures?
Just definition of a capital expenditure. You're including maintenance and capital.
In the budget, yes. At this point, yes.
I'm learning, so I'm just collecting your
Nope,
ideas.
That's fine.
How you guys do it.
In
Yeah, so
reality,
like we have a contract for HVAC, and I think that's around $26,000 a year for them to maintain all of our HVAC systems, and that's including our capital budget.
excuse me, that's included in our repair
Operating?
maintenance services in our
Oh, so
operating
not all
capital.
maintenance is in our capital
No.
number.
Technically, anything over, I think it's $5,000 needs to be in capital.
I see.
So
Yeah.
that's the driving.
Thank you.
Okay.
The
Thank you.
next page is the pie chart for the fiscal year 24 budget, not to be confused with the pie chart that Don presented. What he presented in percentages and numbers was based on fiscal year 23. So what we can see here is that fees represent 25% of our budget. The county remains at 19%. Grants and contracts, 48%. And the interest in others, such as donations, is 8%.
And I might just add on that 19%, that is the lowest of any other health district in the state of Idaho. That number in other health districts is upwards to 26 to 30% of that they're asking county commissioners for. if we were at the average, which is 26% around the state, we would be asking our commissioners for an additional $1 million. So that's the number we continually work on to keep that number reasonable.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
So what drives the change in fees from last year 36% to this year projecting 25%?
Here, Christine, my comment to that largely has to do with a couple of things. One would be the drop in septic tank permit fees, right? I mean, last year was a big year for that, and we don't project that to be as high. As Christine mentioned, we're going to see less of our clinical fees with that. What have I missed, Christine?
Home health.
And home health is not in fully operational in the coming year, so we'll see some drop fees in that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, next page, the change in statistics page. So I'm going to focus primarily on the right-hand side, the two right columns, or three right columns. But I would like to first mention that the source of this data is shown down below, and our population source is coming from the Census Bureau for fiscal year 24, and the property valuation source is coming from the Idaho State Tax Commission. So the population makes up 70% of the budget, is calculated, or 70% of the budget. Population represents, excuse me, the calculation of the budget is based on 70% population and 30% valuation. And what we can see in Shoshone County is population increased by 400 or 5% compared to prior year. It went up to 14,012 from 13,612. The valuation increased by 528,500,000, or a 3% increase. If we take these numbers and go to the next page, we'll see how this calculates into the budget. Now, what we're asking, as Don mentioned, we're not asking for an increase from the counties. So we're requesting county funding of $2,496,900, which is the same amount that was requested last year. But when we applied the statistics, the change in population and the change in valuation, we experienced the shift in drift, due to the budget change, but also due to a change in those values. And you can see that the biggest impact was experienced by Kootenai County. The impact to Shoshone County is, if we look at the lower left-hand corner here, we can see that in fiscal year 23, that the requested county support was $113,900. This year, fiscal year 24, with the change in these statistics and the change in budget, the county request, your portion, has gone down by $3,413 to $110,488. And then off to the right for your county clerks, this is the billing schedule that will be done each quarter. We bill quarterly, send an invoice to the county, and if the budget is approved in May, that's what the quarterly billings will be.
27,622.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So Kootenai County's growth is benefiting us,
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
even though I have to wait longer at Costco to get anything.
Well, and I mean, your percent change in value still isn't 41%, which is remarkable. But yes, Kootenai County, I think, was 71%, as I recall. So yes, that's right.
Yes, if you go back to that statistics page, I'm just staggered at that 71% growth valuation increase in Kootenai County. And then the population change supposedly of 3789. And I can say that driving around town, it's certainly more than 3789. Are there any questions?
You did a very thorough job. 3 more times and I'll understand budgeting, and then it's really gonna help me with the rest of my job. Any questions by the board?
So
Anything?
process, Commissioner, it would be, that our budget hearing is May 25th at 11 o'clock at Panhandle Health District. And, it is asked that the commissioner of the commissioners or the chair of the commissioners attend. And if not, that could be delegated to one of your other commissioners, but it must be a commissioner to cast the vote on the budget on May 25th at 11 o'clock. Again, it has to be a majority vote of the counties, so each county gets 1 vote, and it must be a majority for this budget to be approved. And so just want to invite you on our May 25th. The budget hearing begins at 11. That will be finished by noon. There will be lunch served at noon, and then our regular Board of Health meeting will begin at 12:30 on the 25th of May.
And this will be at your Coeur d'Alene.
Yes, sorry, in our Hayden office there on
Hayden.
Atlas Road.
So we have to pass the budget here between the 3 of us and then they vote
Yes.
for the budget.
Yes, you will, however you do that, and
Okay.
you will come together and cast a vote for the budget.
And I will literally be out of the US, so I guess I'm gonna ask you to cover that one.
Be there anyways.
So
Do that, that's,
representing us, since you represent us on a regular basis there anyway.
What I'm not certain, Dawn, and maybe you know this, I vaguely remember this from the past. They do need to send a proxy, but what I'm not certain of, does it need to be in their minutes? Does it need to be a formal assignment?
That's a good question. I looked that up specifically in statute, and there's nothing in
Okay.
there about that, just that it must be delegated to another commissioner. I think it would make sense to include that in the minutes of a meeting, that you have, you know, what your decision is, and that you have delegated that to Commissioner Cassidy. But there is nothing clearly defined.
Clerk got that. We'll need to put that into our next week's meeting probably. Okay. Further questions or comments or
No,
thoughts?
thank you guys for what you do.
Appreciate
Thank
your,
you for what you do.
appreciate the
very well presented.
clarity, and you've set the bar now for
Yeah.
all the other county departments that have to come.
It's kind of you to say.
So, if
We
they don't-
hope we made it easier for them and not harder.
No, if they don't have one of these, they're out.
That's right.
Well, just don't tell them where that came from.
Yeah.
That's all I ask of
Yeah.
you.
This meeting is officially adjourned.